Welcome to the Daily Dish with Leanne Ely. This is a show about you, your life, and the vibrancy you want. Join us for daily motivation, wise women's tips, and more as we collectively gather together and move the needle in our lives, heart, mind, body, and soul. Now, here is your host, Leanne Ely, and the Daily Dish.
It's that time. Don't you love a little daily dish? I certainly do. I'd like to welcome Nancy. Cheers. Here's to you, Nancy. I'm drinking out of one of my favorite cups. Check this out. This is the beginning of anything you want. Amen to that. So, and excuse the steamy hair. We played pickleball this morning, and it was, boy, was it steamy, and it just did a number on my hair. Christina's in the house, so is Francesca. Carla, lovely to have you here. And say hello to the dream team, Amber and Jenny. And of course, you know who else? Lindsay is in the house. We've got Flynn here too, because it's Wise Women's Wednesday. I mean, what do wise women do? They gather together and they get things done. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and start my live right on TikTok, and we would like to welcome everyone from Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Welcome. This is the Daily Dish Show. We're talking about our vibe today, so this is going to be really fun. Say hello, and let's start a conversation. I mean, this is how it's done, right? Gracie, Deborah, Ann, I'm so glad you're here. We have announcements every single day. What we've decided to do is condense them and put them all on a page. So if you go to savingdinner.com/announcements, you'll hear all about Full Bloom. You'll see the supplement of the week, which, by the way, is a screaming deal for our multivitamin. And you're also going to see every single thing that's going on. You're going to want to get show notes, because you know what happens with our show notes? Today's show goes in notes for tomorrow, because you're going to find valuable content that's going to help you out. And I'm here for you. So welcome, and thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a fun time. We are talking about our vibe this week. Our vibe is all the things. Who's all up on this whole vibe stuff? I mean, sometimes we get a little bit, oh man, it's so woo, I just really don't want to listen to this. And then there's other times where it's like, this makes sense. And I want to talk about this whole idea of vibration, because vibration is part of who we are. We are all energetic beings. That doesn't mean that we're having this big woo-woo experience. It means that we understand that we can go up and we can go down in our vibration. We can be really high and feeling great about our lives. We can also be down in this place of just absolute despair and darkness. One is high, one is low, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But one of the things that we have to take a look at and we have to acknowledge and see is that we have to look at harnessing our own vibe. Harnessing it. You know, have you seen a horse without a harness? You know, especially if they're a little bit wild. They just go running off and they go and do their thing, and that's that. A horse needs to be harnessed in order to be controlled. And same with us. We need to harness our own vibe, because our vibe is our frequency, much like the tuner is on the radio. So I live in the mountains of North Carolina. I've shared this before. And North Carolina has, you know, being up in the mountains, sometimes you get a really good signal, and then you'll do a switchback on the mountain and you'll lose the signal. And sometimes it'll even change the channel. So you can get a little staticky sometimes, and it's just the truth. This is how things work. So I've noticed that with myself, especially when I'm high vibing, that if something happens, I get a little staticky, and maybe I just switch channels altogether. And the next thing you know, I'm playing country western, and I don't even like that. You know what I'm talking about. So why is it that we do that? Because we find ourselves tuned into the wrong vibe. Do we want to be tuned into the wrong vibe? Of course not. We want to be tuned into the vibe we want. And we get to determine which one that is, because just like a radio station, we can decide what genre of music we want to listen to, we can decide what it is that we want. So if your frequency gets off, what happens? You start entertaining downer thoughts. Anyone ever do that? Oh, I'm telling you, I have done that way too often. Way too often. And if you allow downer thoughts to come, the next thing you know, you're entertaining them like they're out of town guests. You don't want to do that. And when you have those, when you're entertaining them like they're out of town guests, all of a sudden they're taking advantage of you and they're robbing you blind. Would you do that? Would you just bring in complete strangers and allow you to steal your joy? I don't know about you, but I wouldn't do that. But we do it with our own vibe. So you know exactly what it feels like too, because that old familiar downer vibe has those old familiar feelings, those thoughts, and that defeatism that just comes raging at you. And you're, here we go again, right down there on the bottom. But here's the thing. To get to the station that you want, you have to get tuned into the frequency that you want, right? And it's the frequency that the station emits. You can't just say, well, you know, I don't want to listen to country western, for example. And if you are in the middle of Kansas driving across country like I have been before, you don't get much of a choice. You don't get much of a choice because that's what they're going to have right there. So here's the thing, two things. Your station, your location counts, and the dial on your radio counts in order for you to get exactly what it is that you want. In other words, there has to be a match. Now, in the whole, this is talking about vibrations and, you know, frequencies and all this. People will call this in the woo-woo community the vibrational match, which sounds a little intimidating and maybe a little eye-rolly. But hold on for a minute, because remember, everything has a measurable vibration, from the bricks on your house to the shoes that you're wearing, to your flesh, to your dog, to your cat, your food, your emotions. All of them have measurable vibes. They have instruments that can measure that and absolutely say what that is. So finding your chosen vibe and harnessing it is much like your taste in music. You know, you choose the music that you want. You don't just take what comes. Do you? I don't. I'm not going to listen to that. So you got to choose it. You know, that's not a horrible thing. Choosing is a pretty cool thing. So, and like when you land on a station that plays music you don't like, you also get to take that tuner and shift it, change the station. Have you noticed you get to do that? It's pretty fun. So how does this all work? If we're gonna do this, if we're gonna harness our vibe, how does this all work? And I will tell you right now, if you want show notes, go to savingdata.com and just get our newsletter. This is how the best way for you to get the show notes, because I've got 5 really cool things. They're going to help you to become aware, number 1, of your vibe, and number 2, harness it so that you can get to a better place and feel better about your life and about what's going on, right? So number 1 is you attract what you think about and talk about and emote over. Your emotions is basically letting go of the emotional capital that you have inside and putting a lot of weight on the things that you're talking about and the things that you're saying. So here's a good example. When you say, I don't have time, that is coming from an energy of lack and scarcity. However, when you come to a place and you say, instead, I am finding time for my priorities, that comes from an energy of abundance and opens up the possibility. Do you see the difference in that? It instead of shutting down, you open up. Instead of saying it's just not going to happen and that's over and forget about it, there is possibility on the horizon for more, for abundance, not this thing of scarcity. Number 2, tuning into high vibes creates contrast, which we know our brains love contrast. The reason our brains love contrast is because it's the most primitive part of our brain. It understands black and white. We show babies black and white mobiles, right? And we do this because it's easy for them to focus on, and it's easy for us to focus on. It's one of the first things that we can do. So when we see this contrast, We can feel the low vibes and understand what the low vibes are about. Same with the high vibes. We can see the high vibes and understand what the high vibes are about. And get this, when we see this and we see the contrast of it, then we can make a decision to stop it. We can make a decision to say, you know what, I can see exactly what I'm doing. I'm going all low vibe here. I don't want that. And when we decide that it's something that we no longer want, then we're making that contrast and that shift to harness the higher vibe. Do you see what I'm going with all of this? I just love it. Mrs. M all day, thank you for your advice on L-glutamine. 3 days sober. It seems to work better after a few days. I am so proud of you. This is a gal on TikTok, and I'm doing a lot of L-glutamine. I'm so proud of you, Mrs. M. Keep at it. So proud of you. That just made my day. Thank you for sharing that. And by the way, you're free to share this all you want, right? Share this all you want with your friends on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, because we like to bring our people in, don't we? We love them. Yay. You're so welcome. I've got more, so stay tuned, Mrs. M. I've got all kinds of stuff coming up. This is so great, though. You just made my day. That makes me almost cry. You know, it's wonderful, and that's high vibe. When we see change in our lives, the change that we so hotly desire, just like Mrs. M, she was going after something, having a hard time, and it, just a simple trick of using some L-glutamine. I mean, I'm actually gonna show you. You guys park it right here, because if you are struggling with cravings, you can snip them right in the bud, just like Mrs. M. And you take some loose L-glutamine, you put it in a dish, you put it on your finger. My fingers are clean, and gums and tongue, because it absorbs quickly, and it takes whatever that craving is and knocks it out. That's what it does. Remember, I told you about this. I learned this from a psychiatrist who deals with addiction, and this is what she does all day long with her people. The first line of defense. It didn't matter what the addiction is, because the addiction is driven by the same part of the brain, and that's what this affects. So here's the thing. If you're struggling with this, we have this at savingdinner.com/stop cravings. And I'm going to talk about this as long as I have breath, because I have seen miracles. So I'm parking that, and now I'm coming back to this, but this is high vibe. You know, you make a decision about your life that you want something better, that's high vibe. When you just stay there and you don't believe, and you say, oh, that's just a placebo, and you dismiss and you dismiss and you dismiss. We've got a lot of comments like that. Then, you know, you don't get if you're not searching. You don't get what it is, because the mindset piece, the psychological piece, and the physiological piece, those two things go hand in hand. And here she is celebrating, and we're celebrating with her. Amen. Can y'all give Mrs. M a pinkies up? I'm proud of her. So let's talk about emotions too, because speaking of this, when we allow our positive, abundant emotions to be our guide, right? You understand? Mrs. M knows this. When we allow those to be our guide, we find a way, just like Diana Naya did. We find a way, all the way. We don't settle. We don't decide this is just it. This is just the end of me. No way. We decide that I'm going this next step, and I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to deal with the physiological. I'm going to deal with the psychological, the spiritual part. We understand that synergistically, vibrationally, we are whole women. We're not just about a diet and going after a pair of jeans or a pretty shade of lipstick. We are whole women, and whole women have different requirements, but it starts with the way that we think. And it starts with a thought. Can I beat this? Can I get to this next level? Can I have this vibrant life that I want? And when that is your decision, then that is the thing that changes everything, because your positive, abundant emotions are now your guide. Not the downer stuff. The positive emotion ones are. And God knows our negative emotions have had our way with us. That has been the leader for all this time. So this huge shift and switch is different, because you've said enough of that. I've done that. I've experienced it. I know how awful it feels to be down there. I don't want to be down there. I want to be here. I want to be here. I want to level all the way up, because my life deserves this. I deserve this. If we're here on purpose and for purpose, fearfully and wonderfully made at such a time as this, the apple of God's eye, Don't you think we're called to this? Don't you think that our vibration has to be higher? Of course it does. We can choose it. Just like when you're listening to music on a station and you say, I don't like XYZ music, you don't have to listen to it. You change the channel. You can do that with your own life. We have to train up our high vibe though, because it's not something that comes natural. It's something that first we have to notice, and second, we have to coax and take back and own, because the low stuff is the stuff that we're used to rolling around in, right? I mean, all of us, that's just how it's been, but not anymore. Not if we make a decision to do it differently. Number 4 is create fertile soil to plant these seeds of high vibe. You're planting seeds of high vibe possibility. You get to do this by nurturing yourself with self-care. And self-care starts with taking care of yourself, taking your supplements, getting a good amount of sleep, hydrating correctly. Taking care of yourself the way you would take care of a child. Am I right? Because we wouldn't for a minute think of just neglecting our child and leaving our child to just figure it out on their own. Change your own diaper. Of course not. We take care of that child. It's time to take care of ourselves. And that means everything that we do is under the microscope. Is our food on point? Our food needs to be on point because we're feeding souls and nurturing ourselves. We're not just merely feeling this stomach hole. You need nutrients for that. We need to have meditation and prayer apart. We need to get centered, and we need to acknowledge who created us in the first place. We need journaling because we get pent up with all the garbage that's inside. We got to let it out somewhere. And I'll tell you, the journal is the best sorter that I know. It's like laundry, You put your black stuff over here, you put your white stuff over here, and then your delicates and whatever over here, so that you don't have towels having their lint all over your little sweet stuff, right? Am I right? This is what this is all about, and it changes everything when you start doing that. Because I will tell you that that low vibe stuff, tell me if this is correct. Is this you? Have you been here? This is it. You feel bad. You feel horrible about yourself. You feel empty. You feel depressed. You feel like you're not enough. And you know what? This is exactly what it is. That low vibe stuff, it gives you nothing in return. But that high vibe stuff, it's a continual loop of goodness, of good stuff, of feeling like, you know what? I am here on purpose. I am here for a reason. You know what? I have work to do. I have a mission to accomplish. You are all called to a mission. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Think about that. Put that in your journal and just say, if I'm here on a mission, what is it? Because I believe with all of my heart that, first of all, God gave us this reticular activating system, which allows us to basically be, like radar systems. And we pick this stuff up and we can start to see the things that are for us. Evidence to support the life that we want to live. And when we're throwing out those good vibes, we start to get that kind of evidence. Practicing high vibes is about aligning with your higher self, with what you want, never with what you don't want. And that's the mistake that what a lot of us make and have made for many years maybe, is that we align with the bad stuff. We think about all the bad stuff. We beat ourselves up on a continual basis. And when I say that if we shift that and start looking at the high vibe stuff and participating in some amazing self-care for ourselves, just these small things. You notice I didn't say go to a spa and get a massage or anything. Self-care starts with just what's on the end of your fork. Self-care starts with going to bed at a decent hour and maybe having a little less screen time. Self-care starts with the fact that you acknowledge who you are and love who you are. Can you imagine if we started all doing that? So remember, start using I am statements. I am powerful. I am in charge of my own life. I have the ability to do the things that I want. And you keep it in present tense. We keep things in present tense. Our brains understand that. They don't understand negative or past tense or future tense. They understand present tense. And it's a powerful thing for your brain, because then you just turn the light switch on and your brain is now actively seeking those things that you say I am about. I am is powerful. Use it wisely. And here's the thing. You need to start now because this is your life. And we're never guaranteed as much time as we think we might have. You know, that's one of the things that Buddha said is that the problem is that we think we have time and we don't. So get on today, enjoy today, and crush Wednesday because it's a beautiful day to do so. Live your life in full bloom, y'all. That's what I'm doing, and I know you are too. Peace be with you. I so appreciate how you all show up. Let's do this together and share this. Let's bring in the women out there who are they're looking for a community. We've got one right here, don't we? Have an amazing one. Thank you so much. Good job. Yes. Journaling is a great idea. Add that to your life. Mrs. M, I'm so delighted that you're here. I appreciate you showing up and for your comments and for everything else on TikTok and y'all on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks so much. And I will see you tomorrow, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern for the Daily Dish Show. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Check back for new episodes. If you missed the live show, you can always watch the replay. You can find Saving Dinner on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Until next time, pinkies up.